When silence shoots first, I got home earlier than usual. The equipment on site had crapped out, along with my plans to finish the shift. Management gave me a half-hearted wave. Go home, Steve, before something catches fire. Nothing's getting done anyway. I would have been glad for the early evening, but the exhaustion was heavier than gravity. I stepped inside, tossed my keys on the dresser, and almost automatically reached for the fridge. The silence was thick, like in a crypt. But after a few seconds, I realized it wasn't complete silence. From upstairs, in the bedroom, came a low moan and something like a quiet sob. At first, I thought it was the TV, but the TV doesn't whisper, yeah, just like that. And it definitely doesn't croak like a washed-up soap actor. I froze, my fingers clenched into a fist on their own, and the hallway stood a baseball. But a birthday gift from the guys at work inscribed with, "For fending off crooks and the IRS." We laughed back then. Not now. I grabbed it and headed upstairs, slow and steady. Every step creaked like a countdown to detonation. I reached the bedroom. The door was ajar. I nudged it open with the tip of my boot. And bang, a scene out of some trashy daytime drama. Except it was my life, god damn it. My bed, my wife, and some bald, sweaty bastard, pants around his ankles, panting like a freight train, gripping my wife's hips like he owned them. And she was smiling, like it was a romantic getaway in Paris. Not betrayal in a house where our daughter Emily was probably drawing rainbows downstairs. What kind of circus is this, you bitch? I said, and the room dropped a few degrees. The lover jerked upright like someone had thrown ice water on him. I stormed in, and without giving him time to speak, brought the bat down hard on his shoulder. What the fuck are you doing? Me, I said, slamming the bat across his jaw. Fixing a marriage, asshole. Teeth hit the floor, crunch at my ears. He howled and tried to crawl away, but I followed. One blow to the gut, another to the ribs. He flopped like a dying fish on the shore, and in a few seconds, he passed out with it. Guttural grunt. Stephen, my wife shrieked. You're insane. I'm insane. I stood in the middle of the bedroom, panting. And what are you? The mother of my child? The woman who vowed to be faithful? Or a hollowed-out husk hiding behind a skirt? She got off the bed. Naked, unashamed. You know what? I hate you. You and your precious Emily. Got that? I've spent my life enduring your shitty job, your disgusting socks, your dead-end routine. I found a real man. He's giving me a future, got it? And you? You're nothing. A nobody. Something cracked inside me. Not a bone. Not a rib. Something deeper. Something like a soul. Something, huh? I muttered. And you? You found your happiness. She darted toward the windowsill. I saw the flash scissors. Regular office once. The kind I used to help Emily with her crafts. Now they were in the hands of a crazed woman. Die, you bastard. She screamed and lunged at me. My instincts moved before my mind. I raised the bat and drove the butt. Flattened. Not the striking side. Into her forehead. Thunk. She froze. Teetered like a drunk. One dropped. Silence. I stood there, breathing heavily. The room stank of sweat, blood, and betrayal. My wife, the mother of my child, lay unconscious. Hair a mess. Lips twisted in a snarl. The lover was a lump of broken meat in the corner. His nose smashed. One front tooth gone. Well, family night. As it is. I muttered, wiping my face with a sleeve. Emily. Where was Emily? Music school. I was a little bit nervous. So, you won't fit in a trash bag. I smashed the bag into the back of his skull. The second guy tried to come at me from the side. Bad move. I cracked him in the knee, pop. He screamed. Then the elbow. Then the wrist. He shrieked like an undercooked sausage hitting the pan. Hands hurt. Should have played chess instead of let's break into some guy's house. They were both down. One groaning. The other trying to scoop up his teeth like acorns. I stood over them, ready to finish the job, but the front door burst open with a crash. 3 more. One bald wearing a leather jacket. Another in a tracksuit. The third in a ski mask must have been their company dress code. Hey, who the hell are you? The bald one shouted. Uncle Steve, I said, And you're all about to get. I stepped toward them. Baldy charged first. I drove a punch into his gut. He folded and then kneed him in the face. The ski mask came at me. I spun, swung low, and smashed his knee. He screamed and went down. Track suit, quickest of the bunch, grabbed a vase. I dodged and nailed him in the groin. He folded like a laptop. 3 down on the floor. 2 already there. I was breathing hard like a freight train. My whole body surged with adrenaline. Well, that all you've got? I rasped. Or are there more idiots on the way? And then they came. 4 of them. Silent. Wordless. 1 with brass knuckles. Another with a steel pipe. The 3rd in gloves. The 4th. A beast with teeth that looked more canine than human. I tightened my grip on the bat. Sleep tight. Emily. I whispered. Daddy's about to give a master class in disposal. I charged first. Landed a hit on the rib cage of brass knuckles. But he got me in the temple. My skull rang like a bell. Steel pipes swung and clipped my shoulder. I was a little tired, but came back swinging. Caught someone square in the jaw. Someone cried out. I kicked, struck, twisted, grappled, choked. Snapped 2 fingers. Not mine. Slammed my head into one's face. Broke through drywall. He dropped. But my strength was fading. I felt them piling on. Twisting my arms. Someone stomped on my neck. One of them yelled. Hold him. You prick. Hold him. Another tried to wrestle the bat from my grip. Then blackness. 1 solid strike to the back of the head. My skull shut down. I fell into the dark. Consciousness crawled back slowly. First pain. Throbbing. Like someone drumming on my skull in time with some god-awful club track. Then the taste of blood. Bitter. Metallic. Like I'd swallowed a rusty nail. I opened my eyes. Blurry. Light stabbed my pupils like needles. I was cuffed to a concrete wall. The handcuffs. Tight. Cold. Bit into my wrists. My fingers barely moved. And in front of me stood a man. A tailored suit. Shoes polished like a tax inspector's soul. And eyes that didn't just deliver threats. They lived in them. Finally. Stephen. He said with a smile. Like we were meeting at a dinner party. I was starting to worry you died too soon. And that would be rather inconvenient. Who the hell are you? I croaked. My throat burned. My name is Marco Delvar. Remember it. See, could be the last name you ever hear. Or the first one you grow to love. If you behave. I grinned through the pain. Delvar. Seriously. Sounds like a guy who sells expired kebabs. Marco squinted. Stepped closer. Leaned in. I'm missing money, Steve. A lot of money. Nearly 2 million in cash. A tag bundle was found in your home. Nowhere you screwed up. You turned out to be cheaper than a $10 tracker. What goddamn money? I nearly choked on my own spit. I've never seen that kind of cash. I fix machines. I don't rob banks. Then you're a stupid technician. He said calmly. Because either you stole what didn't belong to you. She was my daughter. My blood. My steel. Follow me. Whatever you hear. Don't look. And if I say drop. You drop. No questions. If we survive. We'll talk later. We slipped into the hallway. The lighting was dim. Green. The kind that flicker like a psych ward disco. The air reeked of damp, sweat, and death. I led the way. Cleaver at the ready. Then cigarette smoke. We turned the corner. And there they were. 3 of them. Leaning by the back exit. 1 picking his teeth with a toothpick. Another telling a joke. The 3rd scrolling his phone. A masterclass in dumb-ass security. I stopped and looked at Emily. Hide behind the wall. Don't look. Daddy's about to play checkers. Accept the pieces. They're special. She whispered. You're not. I've been through worse. I smirked. These 3. Like army rations. And over quick. I exhaled. And moved. The first saw me when I was already a meter away. Hey, who the F? The cleaver hit his temple. The sound was like someone punting a watermelon. Blood sprayed in a fountain. He dropped like a bag of meat. Without a squeak. The second. Toothpick guy. He reached for his pistol. But I was already there. I hacked his arm from the shoulder. Meat tore apart. Bone flashed white. He screamed. Ark fuck Maya. I smashed his face like splitting a cabbage with an axe. Skull cracked. Just shattered. The cleaver stuck halfway through. I had to wrench it free like pulling a knife from a stump. The third had already pissed himself. Dropped his phone. Backed away. Hands up. I'm not part of this. I was just out for a smoke. And now you'll go back to the trash, I said, driving the cleaver into his side. Nearly to the hilt. He folded over. I yanked the blade upward. Guts spilled like a Halloween garland. He dropped. Twitching. I turned. Emily stood frozen. Like a statue. All good. Kitten. They lit the wrong kind of smokes. She nodded. Eyes blank. But breathing steady. She held firm. My girl. We moved forward. The hallway led deeper into the building. The air grew heavier than steel. Somewhere ahead. Noise. I heard voices. Approaching. Emily whispered. Behind the door. I nodded. If you hear Ron, I'll catch up. She obeyed. No words. Just a look. Heavier than bullets. Then they appeared. 5 of them. Stocky. Armored. 2 with knives. 3 holding what looked like brass knuckles. Strolling in like they were out for bread. For you. One sneered. Like he already knew how it had end. Your worst nightmare with a cleaver. I said. Or at the very least, the new god of your pain. They laughed. You alone. My inner demon's here. And the cleaver. Say hi. I charged first. No waiting. No defense. I was a tank with no brakes. The first. I slammed the blade into his collarbone. It cracked like a rim under a sledge. He screamed. Grabbed his shoulder. And I drove the next blow into his face. Cheeks split open. Teeth flew like tokens from a busted slot machine. Second lunged with a knife. I pivoted. Kneed him in the gut. He doubled over. Cleaver came down on his skull. Crunch. He collapsed like a sack of cement. Third grabbed me from behind. Wrong move. Elbow to the jaw. Fin. He loosened. I turned. Buried the cleaver under his ribs. And dragged it sideways. Split him like a bag of potatoes. He hit the floor spilling out. 2 left. He's fucking insane. 1 screamed. I said stepping toward him. Just a former tech. Fixing the system my way. He punched my rib. It hurt. I winced. But kept going. Swung the cleaver at his arm. It tore apart. He screamed. Dropped to his knees. I sliced his throat. Blood geysered. Eyes bulged. The last one ran. Very bad. I hurled the cleaver. It flew like an axe. Buried in his back. He flew forward a meter. And dropped like a mannequin. Silence. I stood. Covered in blood. Hands shaking. Breathing like a train engine. Alive. Enraged. And the now. Emily approached. Slowly. Carefully. Saw everything. She whispered. Are you okay? I turned to her. And here I thought you'd ask who's cleaning up this shit. I smirked. Let's go. While the bodies are still warm. The corridors led downward. Deeper underground. As if the building itself wanted to hide its filthiest secrets in its bowels. The air shifted. From the smell of blood and fear to ammonia. Chemicals. Something burnt. And artificial. Familiar. Too familiar. Then I realized. We were at the warehouse. I stopped. Ahead. Double steel doors. One slightly open. Behind them. Voices. Noise. I heard the chatter of men. The crash of crates. The clatter of metal. Then laughter. Echoing far off. The kind of laughter that says, we think we're immortal. I pressed against the wall. And looked at Emily. She held firm. No more trembling. Blood on her face. But not hers. Thankfully. Eyes dry. Just a glint at the corners. Not tears. Sharp fatigue. You know, sweetheart. I whispered. Sometimes good people do bad things. Because bad bastards have been overdue for hell. This is going to be one of those times. She looked at me. Said nothing. Just nodded. Slowly. I peeked through the crack. And froze. Inside. There were 20. Maybe 30 men. The place was the size of a hangar. Dozens of tables. Crates full of weapons. Assault rifles. Handguns. Boxes of ammo. On the far side were the packaging stations. Tables buried in white powder. The noise was like a market. Someone weighing. Someone swearing. Someone eating chips next to a machine gun. The vibe was practically a vacation. If you were a psychopath. I turned to my daughter. Pointed at a narrow door to the side. A storage room. Small and tight. Get in there. Lock it. Don't come out until I knock 3 times. Got it. She nodded. She whispered. Make them hurt. I smiled grimly. Promise. Time for a masterclass in biomechanical disassembling. She slipped into the storage room. I made sure the door shut behind her. Took a breath. My hands were shaking from the tension. The cleaver was in my grip. What? Already familiar. I stepped inside. They didn't notice me at first. Too busy. One was checking inventory. Another arguing over grams. A third fumbling with a holster. One of them was even humming under his breath. Powder for dessert. Blood for dinner. Walk out alive. If you're a winner. Hey poets. I said loud and clear. What are you cutting over there? Flower or the illusion of immortality? Heads turned. One of them chuckled. Who's that? Another new guy? I said, stepping closer. I'm the one here to shut your department down. The nearest one reached for his pistol. The cleaver swung up. Cracked into his collarbone. The blade angled in and punched out through his neck. He began to fall. I helped him along with a kick. He didn't even have time to process. The cleaver swung horizontally from cheek to cheek. His face split open like rotten fruit. He collapsed. Alarm. Someone screamed. Chaos erupted. They scrambled for weapons. Panic like in a bad dream. One dropped his rifle. Another got stuck between crates. I moved like a reaper. Swinging. Slashing. Breaking. The third. Cleaver to the chest. Slice through his neck. He was a little bit too late. The third. Cleaver to the chest. Slice through his body armor like a kin lid. His rib cage opened. Blood splashed the ceiling. The fourth threw a knife. I dodged. Stepped in. And drove the cleaver into his groin. Then upward. He screamed. Collapsed. Choking on his own voice. Daddy's home. I wore it. Lineup. Packers. Bonuses include severed limbs. Bullets whizzed past. One of them grabbed a Uzi and started spraying. I dove under a table. Crawled close. And sliced his Achilles tendons. He howled and fell. I finished him. 3 times in the face. Until he was an unrecognizable pulp. The others began to retreat. One tried to run. I threw the cleaver. Straight into his back. He dropped. Screaming. Crawling away. Leaving a trail of blood like some deranged snail. I picked up a rifle. Loaded. Well, colleagues. I shouted. Welcome to the company party. I'm your host. Today's agenda. Dismemberment and termination. Gunfire. The rifle kicked in my hands as I spun. Fired. Hurl crates. 2 took shots to the head. 1 screamed. Don't shoot. I've got kids. Said so do I. And you just lost the sympathy contest. Shot him in the chest. 2 lunged from behind. I tossed a grenade I'd found on a table. Flesh. I took old times. 3 more. One was already howling. Who the fuck are you? Sanitation. Here to shut down the meat factory. Put the rifle to the face. Again to the throat. He dropped. 1 left. On his knees. Don't. Please. Too late. Your order's already processed. I brought the cleaver down from the crown of his skull to the chest. Like slicing a pie. Silence. The room was a war zone. Blood. Body parts. Weapons. The pink. Soaked in blood. The image was operatic. I wiped my face with my sleeve. I stood in the middle of the warehouse. Surrounded by the dead. Blood. Dripped from the ceiling. Guns lay scattered among bags of powder. The stench was thick enough to breathe through nails. But smell didn't matter now. I froze. I heard footsteps. In the distance. Rhythmic. Synchronized. Boots. Heavy. Several pairs. And one more. Lighter. Faster. A fighter. A runner. I followed the sound. Then I ran. Step by step. Accelerating. Like hell itself was shoving me forward. Turned the corner. And saw them. 5 guards. Armored. Armed with rifles. And Delvar. He was sprinting down a narrow hallway like a rat. Guards behind him. One turned. Spotted me. Shit. Behind us. Daddy's coming. I whispered. Diving for cover. Bullets tore through the air. Punched into concrete. Barked off the walls. One dropped to a knee. Unleashing a burst. I rolled behind a crate. Grabbed the first rifle I could. Loaded. Popped out. Short burst. Hit one in the neck. Blood fountained. He fell on his back. Convulsing. One down. I muttered. Any other applicants? They started retreating. One stayed back. Covering them. Smart. I flanked wide. Darted through a maintenance corridor. Popped out the side. One guard stood alone. Aiming. Didn't see me. I crept up and smashed his skull with the rifle but cracked like a melon. No sound. 2 left. He's on the left. They shouted. Too late. I threw a grenade. Taken from one of their pals. It arced. One spotted it. Tried to kick it away. Bad idea. Explosion. Flush at walls. Screams echoed. One survived barely. He staggered to a wall. Raised his weapon. Limping. I approached silent. Fired. Shoot better than you live. I said. And drove a knife under his chin. The blade exited through his eye socket. He twitched. Collapsed. I turned. And there he was. Marco Delvar. Trembling. Unarmed. Hands raised. Lips quivering. Please wait. I walked toward him. Slowly. No rush. Like collecting a debt. Like burying a traitor. Listen. He babbled. You want money? Take it. I'll disappear. We can forget this. I stared him down. Cold. Money. He nodded. Stammering. Why ya? Money. 2 million. Maybe more. Take it all. You see. I stepped closer. Maybe I would have let you go. Maybe. If you were just a scumbag with cash. I stopped. 1 step away. But you. Touch my daughter. He froze. Pale as a ghost. I looked at his right hand. That one. He didn't answer. Just shook. I raised the cleaver. Aligned it with his wrist. And with a single blow. Flack. Sliced off his hand. It flew like a rubber ball. He held like an animal. I grabbed the severed hand like a footballer after scoring a goal. Don't scream. You're about to get high. There was a pile of powder scattered on the floor. I crouched down and dipped the hand into it. Generously. Like coating a chicken wing in breadcrumbs. Hi, I said. You like getting high, don't you? He groaned. Trying to crawl away. I walked over. Grabbed him by the hair. Lifted his head. Open wide, sweetheart. This is your final cocktail. And shoved the hand into his mouth. He gurgled. Convulsed. Powder filled his nose. He sputtered. Choked. His eyes bulged from their sockets. He writhed like a worm in a frying pan. Savored. I whispered. Your final fix. Then pushed him away. He fell to the floor. Twitched. I straightened. Looked at my hands. Blood ran down to my elbows. I glanced around. Along the wall stood several canisters. The scent. Gasoline. Lots of it. I muttered to myself. Let's throw a farewell party. I grabbed one canister. Then another. Began pouring fuel across the floor. Down the corridor. Along the way back. Generously. Puddles. Trails. Let this filth burn. Every last cockroach. I passed through the warehouse. Splashing gasoline on the weapons. On the drugs. On the bodies. On the powder. On the walls. Stopped at the storage room. Knocked 3 times. We stepped out. Emily and I. While behind us the layer of filth lit up in flames. As I led Emily through the wooded strips surrounding that goddamn slaughterhouse. The picture began forming in my head. Simple. Like a drainage system diagram. And just as foul. Who could have planted that tagged stack of cash in my house? Who knew where I lived? Worked. When I was home? Who could get in without leaving a trace? Too close. Too precise. The answer was right there on the surface. Like dog shit on a morning lawn. My wife. Correction. Ex-wife. And her little boyfriend. The one who moaned on my bed while I held a bat. The bastards had decided to play a game. How to make a few million and frame the idiot husband. Maybe they'd miscalculated one thing. I'm no idiot. I'm the kind of problem you don't want to create. We reached the highway. I raised my hand. A rusty truck pulled over. Where did? The driver asked. Me and my daughter. She was covered in blood. I had a cleaver. Classic setup. Anywhere people don't ask too many questions. I said. He nodded. Hop in. Just don't bleed on the seat. It's new. I took Emily somewhere no GPS could find. After the mountains. To a man whose life I'd once saved. Maybe once. Maybe twice. Or if you believe his stories, 27.5 times. Kevin Cross Hartman. Former sapper. Current paranoid. Owner of a fortified house on a hill where even the cat were Kevlar. He met us on the porch. In shorts. And holding a shotgun. Steven. Holy shit. I thought you died somewhere in Libya. Almost. It turns out my problems are closer than the sand and explosions. I see. Who's this? My daughter. Cute. Covered in blood. Awesome. Watch over her. She needs to be safe. And you. I'm going hunting. And maybe throwing a few more bodies into the fire. He frowned. That familiar glint returned to Kevin's eyes. He knew. He sensed when someone was on the trail. When a man wasn't coming back the same. Or coming back at all. What do you need? Find her. Almost as funny as trying to frame a former soldier with nothing to lose. He clicked again. There he is. Your buddy. Now going by Ralph Sawyer. Not a total idiot. Worked security for a big cartel. Now both of them are holed up right here. He zoomed in on the map. A red circle blinked on the northern coast of Colombia. A colorful seaside town. Humid, drenched in smuggling and lazy luxury. The name lit up across the screen. Colombia, Santa Marta. Ki 22 #5 to 45 Zona Colonial. There they are. Kevin said. Tapping the screen. House in a secure zone. Fake names. Cameras. Guards. A dog. The whole idiot-proof fantasy. But this is their last known location. Confirmed. I stared at the screen. Unblinking. You know. I never wanted to go back to the old me. A suit of death. But sometimes the suit climbs onto you by itself. Like it's whispering. Buddy, it's time. Kevin handed me a hoodie. A bulletproof vest. A bag of weapons. Take it. All yours. Just don't forget. You've got a daughter. Make it clean. But don't die. I took the gear. Pulled on the jacket. I'll be back. If I'm lucky. With answers. If not. With heads. He nodded. And if you're really lucky. I grinned. Then I'll torch that villa to hell and grill ribs on the bones. I left. Behind me. Ahead. Santa Marta. K22 #5 to 45 Zona Colonial. The address where the games might finally end. Colombia greeted me with muggy heat. Like a damp blanket wrapped by a vengeful climate. In Santa Marta. Everything breathed lazy luxury. An unchecked crime. White facades. Spanish tiles. The scent of marijuana. And grilled meat in the air. A paradise for bastards whose consciences had long since drowned in offshore a cat. And kilo bricks. I walked to the location low profile. K22 #5 to 45. A colonial-style villa with stone columns. And a tall wall. From behind it. Laughter. Music. Chatter. Inside a party. So they were celebrating. A new life. Without me. On my dime. I crouched in the underbrush like an old predator. Watching through the leaves. The visibility was perfect. Under the colonnade by the pool. A crowd of bastards. 40. Maybe more. Some with cigars. Some with bottles. Some with pistols on display. Like fashion accessories. Rather than extensions of their pitiful brains. Drunk. Smooth. Stupid. Real kings of life. Until they take a punch to the teeth. And then I saw her. My ex-wife. Laughing like betrayal and blood had never happened. In a short dress. A margarita in hand. Her face. Pose. Special. Next to her. Ralph. The slick rat. Gesturing wildly as he spoke. And I told them. Yeah. Steven has it all. He knows everything. He took it. And get this. They bought it. The whole mafia. Like sheep. And him. That fucker's fertilizer in the woods now. I'm a goddamn genius. She cackled. Serves him right. Remember how he used to talk down to us? I feed you. Be grateful. Let him feed the worms now. Died like a dog. A splash of margarita ran down her chest. Unnoticed. Drunk. The world had waited a month for my wrath. Now it was time to collect. I pulled the suppressor from my bag. Attached it to the Beretta. The second pistol. Tucked into my waistband. Closed combat. There would be plenty. I was just getting started. First shot. Guard at the gate. Right in the temple. No sound. He slid down the wall like spoiled sauce on a plate. After that, it went smooth. It sank under the trees. First sector. 3 with rifles. Wasted. 1 wore a feathered hat. Like a pirate. But without a brain to match. Hey buddy. Pour me a bullet to the throat. Blood geyser. The second never even turned. Shot under the chin. The back of his head blew open. The third tried to run. Mistake. I caught him. Knife to the kidney. Then to the eye. His face crumbled into an ink blot of pain. Then by the pool. 6 of them partying. 1 tried dancing with a rifle. Another was pissing into the bushes. I tossed a grenade. Pulled the pin with my pinky. Bodies flew into the water. The pool turned red. Screams. Groans. One of them was on fire. Literally. A barbecue platter with a surprise. I whispered. They fired blindly. 1 shot his own. Shit man. Sorry. You just spilled my guts, asshole. Panic. And I walked. Like death on a slow beat. They ran. Some to the house. Some to the gates. Some just shrieked. I followed. A pair tried to hide behind the bar. I threw a knife. 1 in the throat. The other in the cheek. They collapsed. Spraying tequila bottles with blood. 5 near the entrance. Real pros. Armor. Tactics. Hand signals. Just not against me. I threw a smoke bomb. Flanked them. First shot in the back. Second. Kick to the knee. Bullet through the ear. Hand to hand. Stock strike. Neck broken with an elbow twist. The last 2 panicked. Who the hell is that? 1 screamed. Wiping snot and blood from his face. I said. Stepping closer. The next chapter of your obituary. Bang bang. 2 clean shots. They were done. I approached the house. Empty. Just a couple of twitching bodies on the porch. Inside dark. But I knew they were there. I opened the door and chaos began. 1 guard stepped out right into my barrel. Shot to the nose. Skull cracked like a boiled egg. Second came with a baton. Hit my shoulder. I responded with a bullet to the groin. He collapsed. Choking. Third had a shotgun. I ducked. He missed. I fired a burst into his gut. He doubled over. Another into his face. Feature gone. I moved forward. Death in every corner. Then him. Ralph. With a katana. I'll cut you to pieces. You bastard. He screamed. Charging. Well, cut yourself first, psycho. I grabbed a poker from the fireplace. Steel. Heavy. Reliable. He swung like a circus act. I deflected with the poker. Metal rang. Then an opening. I hooked the blade with the poker and twisted. Schlecht. He sliced off his own hand. Screamed like a slaughtered pig. Blood sprayed. I kicked him in the gut. He flew back. Gasping. I picked up the katana. Walked over. He looked up. Eyes wide with horror. Wanted a grand finale. Here it is. And I sliced off half his face. From brow to jaw. His cheek flew. Teeth spilled. Tonged in his throat. He trembled. Then stopped. And then her. My wife. Holding a Uzi. Found it on a corpse. died. You fucking bastard. She shrieked. Opening fire. I ducked. Bullets missed. She turned. I threw the katana. Straight through the throat. Pined her to the wall. She gurgled. Gasped. Plot at the wall. Didn't finish your margarita. I said. What a loss. She died. So. I looked around. A bag. On the table. Open. Wads of cash. Euros. Dollars. Everything mixed in. My new life. I took it. I walked toward the kitchen. There was the gas pipe. With the knife. The hiss began. I picked up a grenade from one of the bodies. Stepped out of the house. The sky was beginning to pale. I pulled the pen and tossed the grenade inside. The house exploded. Flames shot into the sky. I walked away. Without looking back. Like the night before dawn. We drove for a long time. Through borders. Cities. And pain. Emily sat beside me. Backpack at her feet. Headphones in her ears. Sometimes she'd fall asleep. Her head resting on my shoulder. I drove like I was chasing a ghost. Quiet. Steady. The moon moves. In the trunk. Money. In the mirror. The past. Ahead. Whatever was left. I didn't know where we were going. But I knew what we were leaving. 3 days later. We were in Montana. Found an old house by a lake. Nestled among trees. Quiet. A little crooked but full of soul. The owner. An old man named Jim. With a face like a hungover bear. You sure you want to buy this? I'm sure. There are wolves. Bears. Crappy insulation. No cell service. Perfect. I said. Nothing personal, Jim. But your place is paradise for someone looking to forget what hell looks like. He shrugged. Took the cash. Didn't ask questions. I knew I'd found it. A place to start again. Emily and I cleaned up the house. Packed the roof. Hooked up a generator. Got chickens. She played music. I worked on fixing up a boat. In the evenings, we roasted marshmallows over the fire and talked about life. The weather. How to make the perfect hot dog. Sometimes she'd ask, Dad, are we really safe? I'd look at the lake, the sun's reflection, and say, as long as you're with me, boys. Everything stayed calm. For a long time. Too calm. I almost forgot how to hold a weapon. That was a good thing. And then she appeared. A woman I wasn't expecting. And hadn't been looking for. Her name was Hannah Miller. Hair the color of dark honey. A face with soft lines that said life hadn't been kind. It hadn't broken her either. Her gaze. Direct. No fluff. Her voice. Tired and steady. The kind that made you want to either argue or listen. We met in the most ordinary way. I was trying to fish the boat motor out of the lake. I'm a genius. She was walking by with a limping Labrador named Dewey. Need a hand? She called out. Only if you've got a crane or scuba gear in that backpack. Nope. Just a leash and sarcasm. Will that do? Perfect. In the water. Miss Leash. She laughed. That's how it started. Then came cough. She brought it in a thermos. And a book for Emily. Then a mushroom picking trip. At first I was cautious. For me. Isn't something you pull off a shelf. But she didn't push. She just stayed nearby. Sometimes sitting silently with me by the fire. Sometimes cracking a joke. Sometimes asking the kind of question that needed no answer. And accepted silence as one. Stephen, do you ever smile? When I'm not near a mirror. Wanting to show you how. Only if you teach me how to make pancakes without a crime scene. Emily kept her distance at first. Then closer. Then asking when Hannah would be back. Together they built birdhouses, read about dinosaurs. Baked pies. One day I came inside and heard. We've been talking. And we decided you need someone to hug you grumpily. What? Hannah giggled. Translation. She likes when I'm here. And I wouldn't mind staying. But if it's easier for you, I'll go. I looked at them. My daughter smiling. Anna. In an apron. Dusted with flour. Eyes bright. Don't go anywhere. I just didn't think this kind of thing was real. What happiness? That it doesn't come with a catch. We started living together. Slowly. Quietly. Like life had decided to give me a second chance. No gunshots. No blood. Just silence. Lake breeze. And the smell of cinnamon in the morning. Hannah set up our internet. Planted a garden. Hauled in a couch big enough for all three of us. We watched old movies. Made pizza. Argued over who was cooler. Indiana Jones. Or Ripley from Aliens. She taught Emily to play guitar. I taught her how to clean fish. Together we learned how to be normal. Sometimes she'd say, "You still carry it, you know. What happened?" "I can see it." I'd nod. "It doesn't stop me from being here. With you. Then stay." And she did. Some nights I'd wake up. Listen. Hear her breathing beside me. Hear Emily tossing in the next room. And I'd smile. Yeah. I know how. Because sometimes even ash can become fertile ground. And from a scorched past, something new can grow. Not perfect, but ours. Thank you for taking the time to read this story. If you enjoyed it, subscribe, like and share in the comments. Remember, history is a witness to the past, a light of truth, a living memory, a teacher of life, a messenger of antiquity, and see you soon.